Hello and welcome. My name is Biagio Mazza, Pastoral Associate at St. Sabina Parish in Belton, Missouri, and I'm here to welcome you to another Do You Know series question. Today's Do You Know question is, do you know why January the 18th to the 25th is always referred to as the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity? In order to understand this, it's important to go back to our own historical development with regards to Christian unity. Throughout the history of the church, there have been a variety of splits that have occurred from the very beginning, beginning with Judaism, moving on to the 4th and 5th century, issues over understanding and accepting who Jesus was. In 1054, we had the major split between the Latin Church of Rome and the Greek Church of Constantinople, which led to the Catholic Orthodox split. And then in 1517, we had the famous split that occurred known as the Reformation, begun by Martin Luther in 1517, in which, all those supposedly who believe in Christ and try to follow Christ disagreed with one another about how to do that. And as a result, we had all sorts of tension, major wars over how to appropriately follow Christ and live out the Christian faith. Throughout the history of the church, there have always been people who have tried to see this as a complete scandal and tried to do something to bring unity among Christians. This movement took great advances in the 1800s when a number of people and movements began to say that we need to work towards basic Christian unity because it was a total scandal and it was contrary to what Jesus intended, that we all may be one. And so as a result, various movements were begun, which in the early 1900s began to flower. In 1908, Father Paul Watson, who was an Anglican, converted to Catholicism and began what they call the Graymore Fathers in Garrison, New York. And he worked very hard, or wanted the church to work very hard towards Christian unity. And in 1908 proposed that a week be spent focused on the Christian unity, and he called it the Octave of Christian Unity. And the octave, the dates that he chose for that were the January the 18th, which at the time was the feast of the the feast of the Confession of St. Peter, confessing Christ at Caesarea Philippi, and ending a week later on January the 25th, which was always the celebration of the conversion of St. Paul. And so that began to a systematic week devoted to praying for Christian unity. Of course, Paul Watson and a number of the early Christian movement people really began to see unity primarily in terms of the Protestants finally seeing the light and joining the Catholic faith. That's what was understood by unity. As a matter of fact, in the 1920s, they actually changed the name to the Chair of Christian Unity Week, meaning that the connection of Christian unity with the papacy, the Chair of Peter. In the 1920s, interesting enough, the Protestants too decided it was time to pray for Christian unity, and they established a week that was to end on Pentecost, the traditional beginning of the church. And so these movements began to really start to merge, so that in the 1930s we had Protestants and Catholics starting to work together to pray for Christian unity. Not necessarily in the understanding that all would become Catholics, but in the understanding that the Christian unity was to be according to Christ's will and the means by which Christ would want that to happen. So this would mean that all Christians could pray together for Christian unity, and not necessarily mean that everyone would join one particular faith tradition. In the 1940s, when the World Council of Churches was established, they brought into the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity, as it's now being called, and by the 1960s, the Catholic Church came on board and approved right after the Second Vatican Council, approved working together with the World Council of Churches and the Faith and Order Conference of the World Council of Churches to produce material that could be used during the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity for praying and prayer services and various events that would happen to promote Christian unity. So since then, each year, the World Council of Churches as well as the Catholic Church have joined together and produced material that's international and scripturally based. So each year there's a particular theme to the Week of Christian Unity. This year, the theme of the Week of Prayer for Christian Unity is Abide in My Love, You Shall Bear Much Fruit, taken from John's Gospel, chapter 15. The theme expresses our consistent call as disciples to stay connected to Christ through prayer, so as to become people who strive consistently for reconciliation and unity among God's human family. So I hope this has helped a bit to explain where the origin of the Week of Christian Unity came from and why the dates of January the 18th to 25th are still being used today as the time when we focus on prayer for Christian unity, and hopefully someday that dream of Christ that all would be one in him would be realized among all world Christians. So thank you very much for paying attention to this particular video, and I hope you will return again to more videos in order to grow in our knowledge of our faith and our faith traditions. Thank you.